welcome back, folks, to Feast Foreplay Conversations with Global Sexuality Experts. And I have one fabulous one sitting right here in front of me. Just quickly for your information, if you haven't been here with us before, FEAST stands for the Festival of Embodiment and Sexual Transformation, an incredible residential retreat which happens annually here in the Northern Rivers of Northern New South Wales, Australia. Our event this year will be happening from the 21st to 24th of May. And if you want more details on that, you can jump into the links that are in the description of this video, wherever you're watching it, wherever you're listening. So check us out. We'd love to have you there. We have an incredible community of people that is continuing to grow. My name's Jordan Hackett. I'm one of the FEAST directors, and I'm joined today by Deej, who is an incredibly experienced facilitator, trainer, practitioner in his own right. He's been training sexological body workers for well over a decade, and I have a great amount of regard for you, Deej. I always love spending time with you. So you've been in the training space of various educational modalities for over 30 years, I think.
It's about 30. And when last time I had to do the maths,
it
keeps increasing.
So yeah, you bring a wealth of knowledge, and I'm excited to give the people 25 minutes of it today. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
With you again. It's been a while.
It has. It's been a hot minute. And a quick disclaimer on my end, and also some personal news. I'm a recent to be father 12 days ago as recording this. So if my brain is slightly foggy or in a different mode, I'm going to do my best to stay switched on and smart. But please forgive me if I'm dad brain.
We'll all roll with it.
Yeah, let's do it. So there's many things we could say about your background, Deej, about, why you came to be in this work, your motivation and inspiration for working with human beings in this way, for being in the education and space, in the sexuality space. But one thing I'd love to start with hearing is, why did you choose to invest in FEAST? Because for people that didn't know, some years ago when we first stepped into the FEAST space, myself and Susan, my co-director, Deej actually stepped in with us, and he played like a kind of core anchoring role for us, certainly for me, in going, this can happen, and we've got the backing of this incredible experienced man. So it makes it possible for me. It makes me trust myself all that bit more. So what is it about FEAST and this kind of festival retreat space that inspires your support and involvement ongoingly?
So many things, I guess. For me, something FEAST allows a point of rippling out into the world for the work we do, right? Somatic sex education, somatic sexology. And there's lots of us working in different ways. But there aren't many there aren't many places or festivals or events that are really community focused and provide a vibrant interface between practitioners and the world and practitioners. So it's it feels like this rippling point to me of connecting out into the community, out into the environment, out into the world, so that building community is so important, right? It's important. So those of us who work in the field of sexuality, it can be quite isolating. And so I'm hungry for community. Most practitioners and teachers I know are hungry for community. But then there's also that ripple has been moving for the last 15, 20 years through the places where we live, of more interest in sex education, in somatics, and how do we start? How do we connect with that? So FEAST gives a focus point for both a place to start, but also a place for experienced people to be able to gather in an environment which really is somatic and really is erotic and really is boundaried and really is intentional. And you and Susan have done an amazing job at bringing the intentionality in. The processes and the systems that you've established have made it a really joyful place to be in, because I feel, and I hear from other people, there's a lot of freedom to be, because it is clearly boundaried, and lots of processes of support and checking in and all those sort of things. So freedom to be doesn't need to be at the expense of somebody else's freedom to be, because it's kind of organized.
I love it. Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
feel like, community, there's so many different ways of talking about community. And I think community is essential to like the human spirit and psyche, like we're communal creatures. So it doesn't really matter what theme of life or area of life you're talking about. I think there's value in community. But I also think there can be a nervousness or an uncertainty, particularly for newer people, to lean into communal spaces with sexuality because it is often so shamed and kind of wronged in our wider social culture. Why do you think, like, I have the belief that it's almost even more important within the sexuality space for people to open to the possibility of being in communal spaces? What do you see as one or two of the really unique, valuable elements of people taking that risk of stepping into community, specifically around their sexual exploration and development?
The values of them taking the risk.
Yeah, and actually daring to be in a group space that's in that theme.
Yeah. Look, I wonder if risk is too strong a word.
Yeah,
I wonder if,
possibly.
I wonder if risk is too
It
strong
feels
a
like a
word.
risk internally, maybe, but it's not actually an external risk so much.
Because the space is so, I'll come back to the question, but because the space is so well held and because it's somatic, the people and their bodies are processing, there's a sequencing into the space from the beginning of when people are starting to look online and starting to communicate with people, that we're going on this journey together. And I think when you're in more cognitive spaces where it's more about thinking than feeling also,
Mm,
the mind starts to go in lots of
yeah,
places, right? And with Feast, the mind's also going to go in lots of places. But when we start to start to move towards the gathering, there's lots of things like this where the mind can start to get a sense of what's being experienced in the body, and that everything which lies outside of comfortable and known can start to get interesting. So I'm going to loop back and answer your question, I think, because we're living in a time when, I notice with students that this idea of ease and comfort kind of moved up the
yeah,
learning hierarchy. And as a teacher, it's like, let's bring it down a bit. Yes, we need some ease and comfort, but
yeah,
if ease and comfort is what's most important to us, we can't learn, we can't grow,
mm,
we can't connect with newness,
mm,
new people, new environments, new experiences, because by definition, if something's new, it's not already within our comfort
mm,
zone.
mm,
So Feast provides a great container for being able to move, put some feet outside of what you already know
mm,
without getting overwhelmed,
mm.
I think, yeah, without losing touch of where you come from or losing touch of your own body and your own experiences.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I think it's such a common experience for people that are newer to these spaces and people maybe that aren't even particularly considering coming to a space like this to think forward to an event and
Mm.
really just connect with it from the mind and from all of their mental belief systems and go, why the hell would I want to go into a space like that? Because they're connecting to it from where they're sitting right now. And the idea of being naked with strangers or the idea of sharing something vulnerable about your sexual experience with a person you don't know, it doesn't make sense to the system that you're sitting inside of in that moment. And I think it's something I see that happens so beautifully every time we hold these events.
Yeah.
It's the staggering of people starting to arrive in a moment where they're stepping one moment at a time and finding a place of groundedness and centeredness and what's right for them each step of the way. And
Yeah.
the system slowly unfolds. And we couldn't tell them how to do that. We couldn't say, do it in this order, but it naturally happens because they're supported. And then all of a sudden, an activity, an engagement, an exploration point that might have felt completely radical and had no context that they would want to engage with a month ago is like, oh, that's a place I can lean into and I can see the value that it has for me. I can feel my intent of why I'm here and how that links up to this opportunity. I'm ready now to lean into that. So I think that staggering you talk about is so spot on.
And choice is a part of
Mm,
every step you're
mm,
talking about. So for your examples, you said being naked in a group space. There's a choice. You don't need
yeah,
to be naked in a
yeah,
group space, but that there's the possibility of being naked in a group space. That starts to spark people's curiosity about whether they do want to do that or whether they don't want
yeah,
to do,
yeah,
for example. And being naked in a group space, because this is something that I've, experienced for myself and other people over for many, many years now. Um, it's interesting because the mind, my mind before I started this work was absolutely, no, what? I would not want to be naked in a group space, but I was fortunate to go to a workshop where they staggered it, where they stepped it and they gave us choice and eased us into it. And what I found, and I've witnessed again over and over and over, when people are wanting to experiment with that possibility, and this is just one example, but that possibility, it's never like what the mind thinks it's
mm,
going to be.
mm,
And if there's really is choice and it's well held and there's lots of support and presence and care and good intent, it's almost always liberating in different ways,
yeah, yeah,
right? And it's almost always much more empowering than the mind previously thought it was going to be, or much more joyful than the mind previously thought it was going to be.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like that gift of choice is, it's not even it's actually not publicly kind of championed by us in overt language. We have values like consent, and embodiment, and a whole list of things that are really important to us, but it's woven through everything we do actually. And I feel like it's a gift that you and Uma give to everyone you train. You give it so effectively as this tangible, visceral sense of what it means to offer someone a space where there's a whole bunch of opportunities and there's genuinely no agenda for them to step into any of them. It's like the biggest agenda is that you get to choose, actually. And I feel
Yeah.
like we've carried that into the feast space. And when that underpins everything for me, the flourishing that occurs is so much more real because no one stepped into anything because they felt coerced, but even more gently, sometimes they haven't even stepped into something because they felt overly encouraged. It's like whatever they step into is just their own volition of like, oh, there's a natural rising of curiosity in me now, or once again, this invitation has been offered, and finally I'm ready, And I think we can easily fall into the kind of self-development coaching space. And I think there's such big push energy at times with getting people to certain places, with getting people to certain insights or realizations. And my experience of rubbing up against that world is often that a lot of it doesn't stick around as long because as soon as that external kind of pushing force is taken away, people revert back to whatever their place was before experiencing that. Whereas I think the people that move through Feast, they seem to take away something into their lives that is more their own because they've simply been supported to find a deeper version of what's inside themselves.
Yeah.
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 As you're talking, I have a visceral memory of kind of when that landed for me, right? Because
Mm.
before choice was completely embodied, and I'm scrambling for language to try and make this make sense, but so bear with me. But before choice was completely embodied in me, there was a bit of a tension about, oh, if I ask a group to do this, or if I suggest that, and how's it to do that. But once I authentically had embodied choice is absolutely part of every process. So I can suggest something or have an idea or get creative or what about this or what about that. And when I have in my body and my mind and my soma no need for the other people to do it,
Mm.
I can kind of present
Yes.
intentionally. I'm not presenting random fast stuff, but present something that could make sense with what we're currently experiencing and see how it lands and see whether people want
Mm.
to have a go with it or not have a go with it. And they don't want to have a go with it. What might we be able to co-create then? What
Yeah.
might be interesting
Yeah.
for us? So I guess what I'm saying is when I manage to authentically not attach to anyone doing anything I ask them to do, things just float.
Yeah.
Things just float.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I want to pivot a little bit because I feel like it's so easy for these conversations to naturally be geared towards people that are less familiar with these spaces, because that's part of our effort here. It's like to reach out and grab you and say, hey, if you haven't considered this, or if you've been considering this, these are some of the things that underpin it. These are some of the people that are working at the center of it. Hey, look, we're friendly, we're caring, we offer choice. These are the processes we go through. These are the themes we're working with. Like, please step in a little closer if you feel to. And there's also a lot of people out there who might be tuning into this, who are around the feast space, who have been mixing in sexuality places and explorations for many years, or at least some years, and have a sense of some level of knowing in themselves, some amount of empowerment and time on the ground exploring different things within the sexuality and pleasure and embodiment space. I want to bring forward, what your sense of the unique opportunities that lie in Feast for these more experienced folk. Like, what's the potential value there in your experience for them stepping into Feast and maybe coming back if they've been before?
Feels like the world we've been dreaming.
Yeah.
It's the landscape that we've been either if we're exploring in this world for personal reasons, it's the world we've been longing for, a world where we can show up and be erotic and be present and be in our bodies and be connected, and it's intentional and it's boundaried, and people are really taking great care and looking after each other. That's one thing. And if you're a practitioner, it's that world we've been striving to co-create. It's
Yeah.
the world we've been trying to build. So we've got a few days where we can actually gather, and these values of being present, of connecting with our eroticism and everything else that our body's experiencing, of horizontalizing that, of not needing it to be this way or that way, but allowing ourselves to be experiencing what we are experiencing and to be in connection and looking after each other and caring for each other in boundaried ways. That's what this process is. And then there's so many ways you can be at Feast. I mean, there's lots of different activities. You can volunteer for different things. You can be a participant, you can be a facilitator. There's lots of different ways, but there's also lots of different processes, right? And lots of different workshops. So um, I'm running a workshop this year, for example, which kind of speaks to this, because I've been in these spaces for a long time, and there was a time when I'd perhaps be in a festival space or be teaching at an intensive, be with people who had been around this world for a while, and then interface out into the rest of the world.
Mm.
And I struggled.
Mm.
But I struggled because I was attached but also frustrated, and therefore judging all the people who hadn't already done all the stuff that I had done or other people had done. And so I've wanted to create a workshop for Feast this time about that. If we've been doing this kind of work for a while, what does it bring up for us? And what judgments might bring up for us? And how can we notice what those beliefs or assumptions that might not allow other people to have their own beliefs and assumptions, and might not allow other people to be exactly like they currently are?
Yes.
Because we do believe in growth and development, but that doesn't mean that every erotic human being is perfect just the way they are. But we can also learn and grow and develop. So I'm wanting to bring that in so that we can develop awareness of where our biases are, our distractions are, and then what might we be able to practice somatically in order to get back into connection and choice with all kinds of people. So I think for experienced people, it's the place you want to be, I think.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel like a message I want to offer to people as well is, really that Feast is a learning, growing, developing space. Like we're experiencing we're experiencing rapid change and growth pretty much every time we run this thing. Like we haven't done one event to the next yet where we haven't implemented some big shifts and growth points, between each space. And this year it looks like having some incredible team on board, weaving more deeply with our elders, which I forgot to mention, you are one of and bring so much to the table. And also developing our Saturday night program. And that's going to be an additional gathering point to some of the processes that you've mentioned, where we get to come together in a ritualized way. Actually, it's not just always forming certain agreements or practicalities, but it's like actually weaving our psyches and presence together in a meaningful, connected way, in a ritual way, to both open and close the space. And something that emerged in the last year was really like, where's that crescendo highlight point where the entire community is together? And we had various kind of offerings and celebration points in previous years, but there wasn't something where everyone was really together. And so this year we're bringing that, and we're intending to really curate and offer a space where we can all elevate and expand together, but that it doesn't have to look in one particular way, And so there's the intent to really be cushioned with enough support that whether you're a super shy person, a super outgoing person, whether you're a super experienced person or quite a new person, whether you're really kinky and have a super, quirky desire, or whether you simply want to have a cuddle or have some, sensual soft touch, it's like there's going to be the mechanisms in place and the opportunities in place where you can be met. And, my desire is to create a highlight group experience where people start to say, out of all of the places I can go in Australia, I know I can feel however I want to feel on that day, and I can be met and belong in that experience as I am, where I am. That's really the vision for me of like, let's elevate, let's connect, let's celebrate who we are as erotic beings, but in a way that doesn't force any of us to have to be something we're not in that particular moment. So if you attend, if you come to that, then you're contributing to that. You're putting in a unique thread of what it is to be a human being in that experience. So
that sounds amazing. Looking forward to Saturday night. The elders will have to remember not to go to sleep early.
Exactly. We'll make sure you have an afternoon nap like you like to. Can you talk to me a little bit, because I feel like, yes, there's volunteering roles, there's facilitator roles if you're trained in sexological bodywork. The words belonging and service to me really stand out when I imagine somebody returning to FEAST. And not everyone is always interested in service, and that's totally fine. But I wonder, just for anyone that's kind of sitting there on the edge, can you give us your transmission of like what you see the gifts are of belonging and being of service in a community?
My mind's jumping to several different ways, and I think I'll just start with connection.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll start with isolation.
Mm.
Maybe I'll start with isolation because in the years I've been working, the isolation is becoming, in the general world, I think, people's sense of isolation is, I mean, this is subjective as well, but it feels to me that's perhaps because of the clients I get and that kind of thing. But people's sense of isolation is increasing. We've kind of never technically been more connected,
Yes,
but perhaps never felt more isolated, right? There's all these ways to kind of connect with other humans, but not in a felt way, not in a belonging way often.
Mm.
And the fact that a lot of it is done by the written word rather than actual, even like we are connecting now on Zoom, we've got movement, we've got facial expression, we've got tone, so there's more a sense of each other coming through the Zoom screen. But when it's just the written word, we're losing most of the human communication, and it's just coming down to what we're thinking. So anyway, in my experience, and it's not true for everyone, but in my experience, a lot of humans are feeling quite isolated. There are different ways to move away from that, but one way is to find ways to be of service. And be of service again from a dualistic perspective, it might feel like, oh, that's me doing for you or me doing for others. That's one element of it. But when everybody's doing for everyone, then there's a sense of belonging. Then there's that sense of connection, community. We're all part of this. But to get that, I think whether you get FEAST or just in your life in general, that's how we start. One of the really effective ways to start to feel connected and start to feel meaningful and purposeful and like we belong is being of service to other people, doing things for other people, and everyone's doing things for other people, and we grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we've got some experienced participants who come back time and again, actually. And there's a few that are particularly in my mind who just embody this really beautifully, and they come every year as a participant. They don't come as a volunteer. They don't have a need to jump on the team. They want to be there as participants, and yet they give so much to the space. And I see those people embodying such joy and willingness. And I also see them receiving so much. And so when I see those people, I'm like, I wonder if that experience is available to a whole lot more people, actually, and what it takes to embody that and arrive with that opportunity. Because I think, it requires a certain naturalness and almost a bit of an overflowing in yourself to have enough spare to come and be like, I'm ready to give. I'm ready to be a grounded, anchored, loving presence that's just here for people as well. And I think the truth is there are a fair few people out there like that as well. Like there are people that are resourced and looking to increase, and feel more and experience more. And I guess what I want to offer, if you're someone listening to that, is there's this opportunity for that desire in you to be received at FEAST and for you to give of yourself, but actually in turn receive more deeply. And I think that's the thing that almost becomes unlocked when we're willing to take that to a different level. Yeah.
And also when we're in community, people only need to give what they've got, right?
Yeah.
Or right at the moment, because the community takes care of it.
Yeah.
And if what someone currently has is, I actually need to lie down and have people care for me or pay me attention, then in some ways that's been of service to the group, right? Because that's just, if that's what the community needs, then that's what the community needs, and that builds that sense of belonging and purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. I just want to balloon that out actually in this moment, because I think that's something I notice coming up in my life and other people's lives, is because we're stuck in these four walls a lot of the time, living with 1, 2, 3 other people. And often there's a maximum of 2 adults, maybe 3 adults in one house. It's easy for people to come up short often. And that's not a particularly natural way of living. And if you've never experienced living with multiple people or being in communal spaces like this, then it's likely you haven't received the transmission. But at our events, there is such an abundance, there's such a wide range of capacity that inevitably there is actually space for every single person to just say, this is what I'm up for right now. And I haven't seen a time where if we give it enough attention, it hasn't worked for everyone there, because there is such capacity within the group. And I think that's such a beautiful experience for people to have, of like, I can actually honor what's true for me right now, and it doesn't have a negative effect on those around me. It's a gift to those around me. It's an opportunity to those around me. Yeah.
That's
I feel like
we're striving for.
Yes, absolutely. And, to bring it into daily life as well, which is certainly why I've been so interested in trying to map that across in my life. And, you speaking to isolation, it's funny, I see myself as a highly connected person, both with the local community around me, the land, my family, and yet still many weeks of the year, I experience moments of feeling like, I'm cut off from people, because this is simply the practical rhythm of my life that I need to manage. And I can't have someone dropping by every day, so it's a very interesting, line to walk and way to navigate and have enough connection, that I feel topped up. I feel like the last thing I want to touch on, you've been such an incredibly dedicated elder for us and such a massive support person, and we've got so much gratitude. And I think you've been such an incredible support person and educator to so many out there. I want to speak briefly to the reality around the diversity of age that we have at Feast. It feels somehow relevant to this conversation around experience. And for me, there's a massive gift in seeing our age range from like early 20s through to 70s. There's just something there's so many things about it. But to be honest, the biggest thing for me is it's real. It feels like it's the closest to actually bringing the entire world into that faith space and going, this is a representation of humanity. We're not here as just a group of X number year olds or, these particular sect of people. It's like, this is actually a representation of the humanity. I don't know if I've even got a question for you, but is there anything you want to say? Is there anything you want to say about the diversity of age we have and how it feels to be in the feast space at the time of life you're in right now?
I guess I could just speak from my own experience. Look at my own experience because there's age and then there's eldership. And
Yes.
I started in this kind of world when I was 40.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to turn 60 this. I'm going to turn 60 this year. So and that's in terms of perceived age, there's quite a big difference, right, between 40 and 60. Internally, most people don't feel like they age that much after mid-30s or something, but externally there's all this change of perception that goes on that you got to kind of catch up on. So, but when we are comfortable with how we are in our bodies and when we're comfortable with the process of aging, then we're not showing up on that axis kind of thing. We're just showing up in our humanity, and people perceive us as they perceive us. And then we add the eldership piece in, and all of us who are elders, at first we struggle, right? But once we were named elders, something really shifted in how other people warmed up towards me in a space like Feast. So before that, I was a leader, I was a facilitator. So it was almost more like people warmed up to me in that kind of boss or parental role a little bit. Sometimes they played out their power stuff or their this stuff or that stuff, and that was all well and good. But once I was named elder, it was I'm now in the grandfather role, which means so it was just interesting. People come just and soften. People come and often quite young people will come and soften and just want some support. Just want some support, want literally a shoulder to lean on, or just want someone to be present and care and listen to what they've got, what they want to share. And just that, so that's the interface for me. That the eldership meant that the age interface started to happen in a way that's was really new for me. I'm really enjoying it, but it's there's a softening. But the ages, there's different roles at different ages and different ways that we show up in spaces, and that Feast is organized so well, and there's so much choice and there's so much connectivity and so much variety, not just on the age axis, but all kinds of diversity. People are coming together as humans and supporting each other from what they have to support with, from their own resourcefulness, from their own experience. So yeah, it's delightful. That mix of age is delightful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It is. Yeah, and it's so beautiful to hear about that shift and what you've personally experienced with our groups and our community as you've deepened in that place, in that role. And yeah, it always just brings a smile and like something to cherish to my heart when I hear those stories of like people just leaning in and being willing to show up and they're receiving the gift that you guys are offering.
Literally the first year after we were named elders, we had a gazebo somewhere, right? Someone I'd never met before came and put their head on my chest and just cried, and then got up and said thank you or something and wandered away again. I'm like, yay, this is great work.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being with me here this afternoon. It's been really awesome to connect and chat in this way about Feast and about, some of the incredible knowledge you hold. For anyone listening, if you want to connect with Deej and his work, he's one of the directors, along with Uma Furman, one of the directors of the Institute of Somatic Sexology. They offer a number of trainings in this field, incredible work that all of our facilitators are trained in to come and offer at Feast. I'll put the link to his website in this particular episode. And if you want to hear more about the workshops that Deej is facilitating at Feast 2026, you can jump on the link for our website and read those descriptions, read what he's bringing to the program along with Uma. There's always such a rich and potent mix of things. And also this wise, gentle playfulness of like, we stand in our work, we know what it is, and here, it's almost experimental sometimes. And we love that you bring that to Feast because it's such a gift, I think, to everyone. So yeah, thank you. I can't wait to share the event with you in May 21st to the 24th. And just
thank you. Pleasure connecting with you as always, and thank you for everything you and Susan are doing to bring this amazing event together.
Yeah, thank you, Deej. Have an awesome afternoon.
You too. See ya.